Saracens started the season with an 8-game unbeaten run in the Premiership, and although the Six Nations period was a challenge, they're now firmly focused on their goal of retaining their Premiership title. Mark McCall is the man at the helm, and as part of Ricoh's ImagineChange Moments series, we're going to get to know him and his club a little bit better.
Yeah, you can probably tell from the accent where I'm from originally, which is in Northern Ireland, and most of my coaching career, or the start of my coaching career, happened there a little bit by accident, post an injury which ended my playing career with Ulster. And I would think I was an assistant coach there for about 6 seasons and the Director of Rugby there for 3 seasons, so a great history with that club. And then was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to go and coach in France for a couple of seasons with Castres Olympique, and I was there for 2 years, and we had to make the decision as a family as to whether we were going to educate our children in French or in English. So we decided we were going to come back to Ireland, but before we could, we got a phone call from Saracens to see whether I'd be interested in coming on board. Brendan had just been made the new Director of Rugby, and Brendan and I had a history together, and he wanted me to come in as his number 2, and that's how I ended up here. I think you can very often tell in your playing group who's going to end up having an appetite for coaching. It's usually the players who have got something to say and are hugely interested, and I was one of those players. So although I'd never really thought about it, to be honest, and at that point in time rugby had just gone professional, so I had a day job before that happened. It was always something I was keen to explore, even if it was just club level, local club level in Ireland, which I did do at the same time as being assistant coach of Ulster. So I always had an appetite for it, and then you just end up being unemployable in other things. We look outside, to be honest. We've got some very strong relationships now at the club with some very established franchises, especially in Australia. The Hawthorn Hawks, who've been really successful Aussie rules team over the last 3 seasons, actually the last 10 seasons, but they're triple champions, and they're a very long established sport. We've a lot to learn in rugby about professionalism from them, and we've got a strong relationship. They visit us, we visit them. They bring senior players over here, we send senior players over there as well as coaches. Also the Melbourne Storm, who are a rugby league team from over there as well, who we've got a really strong relationship with as well. So it's a lot of that's cultural, a lot of that's looking at how you back up and be successful over a long period of time. It's all about people at the club. It's all about relationships, and I think Saracens, up until the change came 7 years ago, had been a club where the people changed too often. That was in the playing group and in the staff. There was a turnstile policy, and we determined 7 years ago that we would try to do it differently and try to keep a group of people together for a long period of time. And 7 years later, that's kind of been created, and we've had a playing group which has been really consistent, and people tend to retire from the club rather than want to leave the club. But similarly in the staff, we've had the same staff more or less, with the odd person moving towards England. Aside, more or less the same staff over that 7-year period as well, and we believe strongly that builds a real love of the club. The club's in the skin of all the people who are here, and that continuity of people is really important. It's really satisfying when you see these people go from 17, 18-year-olds into the national team, and we've been fortunate. You get some bumper years. Owen Farrell's year is a bumper year with Jamie and Will Fraser and Jackson Ryan, George Crew, Jim Short, who's now playing for Exeter, and then Marrow's year. And Marrow's sort of progressed and advanced quicker than most. but we've got Nick Tompkins and Nathan Earl and Aaron Morrison who's here as well. So we've got some really good young talent about to come from school who are playing for the under-18s at the moment. Nick Ezekwe, Jack Nay, Ben Earl, who are starters for the England under-18 team, and we've got high hopes for them as well. They're quite dull, a bit conservative, but hopefully they would say I was fair and reasonable. It's hard to look at it like that because I think everyone knows that our season started phenomenally well this year when we had a full deck to pick from and we won 13 of our first 13 games. And then we lost quite a big chunk of players for the last 8 weeks. So potentially the game-changing moment is when we lost to Wasps in the manner that we did at home. And it was a hell of a thing to have to cope with, and I think for the squad to play against Gloucester the next week, having lost by 60 points, Scott Brits gets sent off after 25 minutes in that game, and for us to roll our sleeves up and scrap the way we scrapped in that last 55 minutes to win that game against Gloucester with 40 men after what had happened the week before, said a lot about the character we've got at the club. Listen, we try to be as evidence-based as you need to be. You can't take these things too far, otherwise you would get the computers to pick the team, and it's not always quite as simple as that. But we do have an outstanding performance team at the club, headed up by Philip Morrow, who is the best around, and we listen to what he tells us. Not all coaching staffs do, but we listen to what he tells us, and he wants us to train for 41 minutes and not to go over a certain distance, then that's what we do. You'd be foolish in the course of 9 months season not to listen to an outstanding performance team, because injury prevention and having a healthy squad is the most important thing.